So, welcome everybody to this is like the fourth community conversations, if I remember correctly, since at least 2016. Former Councilwoman Delia Farquharson, to my right, your left, has been holding community forums in the effort to discuss different issues in Mount Vernon's social, political, economic, cultural life, and we're here again to introduce that continued effort. I want to thank my comrade and Sister Delia, my neighbor, Sister Delia Farquharson, for really being a consistent public servant, whether she was elected or not, and at least electorally, because when you're elected divinely, no one can kick you out of office, right? So, yeah, let me stop. So I just want to open up and set the tone, because this community conversation is a reintroduction, really, to an effort that then Councilwoman Farquharson wanted to introduce as a regular effort for community dialogue and platforming of conversation, not edicts and mandates and decisions, but input. And so this community conversation, which we'll thank the Mount Vernon Library for helping us to host, is going to begin what we hope will be a monthly effort to platform conversations. And as we go forward, we'll continue to bring the most important issues to the public square. So today, we want to platform what really is a conversation about community input about land use. I particularly was moved by a Journal News publication on March 3rd, 2022, that was titled "A Chance to Right the Wrongs." And to summarize Jonathan Bandler's article, it really talked about the idea of having a marijuana dispensary. I'm sorry, a little housekeeping that I should actually regard too. Please silence your phones and put them on vibrate or turn them off if you need to, whatever you can do. So this article about a marijuana dispensary on Mount Vernon South Side actually came to some surprise to a lot of people, because many people have not known about this issue, although it was put in writing as something that's kind of a deal in process. There are many contending opinions about it, whether a marijuana dispensary is an appropriate or welcome enterprise in this neighborhood or Mount Vernon in particular. There are other community opinions that feel that it would be a good opportunity to, as the article title, "Right the Wrong" states, it's an opportunity to try to right an injustice of historical magnitude, which really used the pretense of a war on drugs to attack black and poor communities. And to commodify the marijuana industry now would only be right to include a place like Mount Vernon, which has been one of the geographical and social victims of that so-called war on drugs. So part of this article actually, and I'm going to quote it verbatim because I don't want to be misquoted, nor do I want to miss the context of why we're here, because we're really not here to talk about the dispensary, while we do need to talk about community input and why that dispensary is a surprise to some people, and why some people have contending views about it. But in the last couple paragraphs of the article, the writer says, "Also envisioned is a community garden on a small parcel of city land behind the dispensary to provide residents with fresh fruits and vegetables. That parcel is one of 5 on the block that the city council weighed selling to MVP Realty in 2020, but did not have enough votes." That's all the article refers to on that particular issue. As far as I'm concerned, that's the most important part of the article, not just because the community apparently has not been politically supportive of this. The city council, at least, has not been supportive, and in some ways, by the will of the people, supportive of this land use idea. But this idea still is the idea has not approached the community for input, at least we feel, in a proper way. So what we want to talk about now is what that proper way looks like and what the community wants to happen. I'm going to hand the mic over to Delia so that we can moderate a different conversation of sorts that looks like community input. But we want to start with not just the dispensary issue, but community gardens and why we need to talk about farming, why we need to talk about land use, because even though housing, for instance, is necessary, although there are other contending uses for land, parking, you know, for people that come with vehicles, there are infrastructural questions that all are relevant, but what are we going to do to feed our people? Because you really can't do much if a community is malnourished or underfed. And of course, the economic dividends or deficits that come from that also need to be talked about. So that's why we've welcomed some people who are assets to that conversation, and we want to walk away with, you know, solutions. So I want to again welcome Sister Farquharson, and we're going to start with an agenda that really looks like, I guess by introductions. Did I introduce myself? My name is Jeff Monroe. So if you do not know me, then that's who I am, and I'm proud to be here, and that's where we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Jeff. I mean, isn't he, you know, when we count our assets in this community, we count Jeff among them, right? Among the great assets of this community. So thank you, Brother Jeff. So I am very pleased to be here to facilitate this conversation, because I think that's how the role I'm playing is just to, you know, to moderate the conversation so that we can hear each other. And when I said introduction, I think it's important that we say who's in the room, right? And I know that we are known to each other for the most part, but I think it's important that we say who's in the room. So can you say who you are in the room, please, so that we're all present?
I'm Brother Hammurabi Bey. I've been here in Mount Vernon about 45 years. I played a part in the Peacekeepers, Crimes Against Gun Violence.
Here, Brother Bay. We are recording. And, you know, 20 seconds, Brother Bay.
Oh my goodness. My mother had 18 children. I'm number 2. I'm 81 years old. But I've been here a while, back in the day when Jeff Monroe was working with us with the school board and all that stuff. And Delia Farquharson is also a great person as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
I'm not going to take up a lot of time. That's not a long time.
No, it's not.
I'm just glad to be here because I live about 1 block from that facility, and I'm also a builder, and it looked like it's going to be a drugstore.
Yeah.
You know, and I kept asking people, and they said, well, they're going to put a place to grow weed in the back, and across the street in another place where their trucks are at now, they're going to grow some more. So I'm saying now they're going to be in competition with the drug dealers on 2nd and 3rd. Yeah, I live there. I see all this. So now those guys are going to have to leave because they're going to get in qualified drugs on the corner for free.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Brother Bay. Thank you. So.
My name is Amy Beneroff, and I live in Harrison, and I run a nonprofit organization called Our New Way Garden, and we grow food. We incorporated as a not-for-profit in 2014, so we've been growing for a number of years. We grow in a lot of different spaces in Westchester, corporate land, residences, and we grow about 20,000 pounds of vegetables annually. I met Jeff and Ruby through Nada Cotter of Westpac last year, and I've been collaborating with them at the Free People's Market. And I'm interested in helping more and more people grow food wherever we can because I think it's really important. So I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you. And so just, you know, self-select. Self-select.
Well, pick somebody.
No. Amy. Ann, I'm sorry, Ann.
You might be shy.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be here. Ann Jaffe Holmes. I'm with the Federated Conservationists of Westchester County. And we are working with the Tree Advisory Board to make sure that all the people of Mount Vernon get aware that they can get involved and increase and improve the canopy of Mount Vernon. And we're also working with Jeff and Ruby and Delia on their idea of an aquaponics community garden on Fourth Avenue. So I'm here just to support the community and what your goals are for life in your city.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you. Miss, come on. Never knew.
Hi, I'm Marlene Wertheim. I've lived in Mount Vernon a very long time and watched it going through all of its phases. I've been involved more recently with the revision of the tree ordinance for Mount Vernon, along with Evelyn Feldman, and that's led to a tree advisory board, and we're very diligently working at maintaining a green city. Of course, community gardens are just something that are really essential, I think. I've been involved with them in the past, and so I'm in full support in whatever I can do here.
Thank you, Marlene.
Hello, everybody. I am that Evelyn Feldman she was referring to, a stakeholder of Mount Vernon. And since 10 years, I've been working hard on public advocacy for green spaces and tree assets and responsible development. As Marlene said, our fight has brought us to a new law in Mount Vernon that was outdated from 1957. Now it's 14 pages of how to protect our green assets in Mount Vernon, to educate ourselves, to see how the trees need us and we need the trees, and how to responsibly live together. I'm delighted to be the chair of this first year of our tree advisory board, and we're right now working to bring more trees into the community. We're trying to find locations for the Arbor Day celebration. So if you know any places that desires trees, let us know. We want to get started. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mia? Mr. May? Let me just acknowledge in the room our Assemblyman, Gary Pretlow. Welcome. Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you. All right.
Oh, boy. Yeah, my name is Henry May, and when I hear people talk about how long they've been in Mount Vernon, I have to measure that time by my children. And I remember when we came to Mount Vernon, they were about 4 years old and 5 years old. I have a hard time remembering how long I've been here, but I can look at my children and I realize now that they're in their 50s. So we've been in Mount Vernon for quite a period of time. And over that period of time, I've been affiliated with a lot of worthy causes that I never expected or planned to become involved in. But because they were worthy causes, I became involved with them as a supporter. As an educator, I know that what we do with the children is very important. And so I get involved with these different organizations and these different projects and hope that they're going to motivate children and motivate their parents to do great things. And one of the areas that I've gotten involved in is the Audubon Society. And that's a society that works throughout Westchester and throughout the state, throughout the country. And as a result of my affiliation with them, I've seen a lot of things, I've learned a lot of things that I didn't know about. One of the projects that we had under the Audubon Society to initiate and get young people involved was the milkweed butterfly program. And I ended up being the person for the Audubon Society, bringing that to Mount Vernon. And it's so important when you look at the young children who are just beginning to learn about germinating seeds and growing things in the ground that are going to affect a butterfly. And if somebody had told me in Harlem 60 years ago that I would be in Mount Vernon advocating for milkweed in the ground and butterflies, I would have told them that they were crazy. But this is what happens when you affiliate yourself with worthy causes. And so I'm a part of the Tree Advisory Board, which is an official part of the Mount Vernon administration. And I've been involved with the tree advocacy group that has been initiating programs to support trees. I've come to know Delia Farquharson and Janice Duarte as strong supporters of these worthy causes, and I'm glad to be here today.
Thank you, Mr. May. Thank you. Mr. Thomas?
Yes, I'm going to jump on this. My value will increase going after this gentleman.
Hello. Thank you all.
So my name is Talbert Thomas. I'm almost embarrassed to say I've been here 45 years. Been looking back on it as a resident in Mount Vernon, homeowner, raised 2 young people here. They've gone on to do, I think, fantastic things. They came from good roots. This used to be, and probably still is, a very tight-knit and supportive community. So I'm going to start out by saying the following, and then come back to it. Viable neighborhood groups and associations, they are the cornerstone of a strong, resilient community. And we used to have strong neighborhoods, strong neighborhood groups. They did fantastic things with young people. They did fantastic things in terms of the beautification of their areas where people lived. And that still is happening. We just need to increase it. So recently, I just got involved with trying to reboot my historic neighborhood association in Chester Hill Park. I go back about 15 years with it. It diminished in terms of its presence, in terms of its strength, went through a number of iterations, but about 1.5 years ago, we just said, we got to get this going. We got to get our city back where we thought it should be. And so we're putting some elbow grease into that now. We just don't want to talk about it or make pretense. We want to work at it. So we're trying to rebuild from the ground up. And I'll just add this to you. It's a communal enterprise. We have no president. We have no officers. Everybody has to come on board and contribute elbow grease. No dues other than you participate. And that's where our city needs to be.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And that's a great place for us to enter the conversation, right? That's a great place for us to enter the conversation because come on in, Deborah.
We
You need
have a garden club at the Mount Vernon Public Library that we work
Go
to beautify the library, take care of the gardens that were planted about 20 years ago by the Girl Scouts, and so we do that. We tried some community gardening with varying success, but right now we have a pretty active garden club at the library, and if anybody's interested, I'd be glad to send them an email and get them involved.
Thank you, Deborah.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much. So what Brother Jeff said is that this is about land use, right? Because when you live in a community, when you live in a municipality, the land is owned by the people. And so if the land, how the land is to be used, it should be a decision that's made with the input of the people. And so I wanted to start off by pointing out the social determinants of health, right? As as how it's determined now. What are the social determinants of health? And the social determinants of health includes economic stability. That includes employment, income, expenses, debt, medical bills, and support. It includes neighborhood and physical environments. So that's housing, transportation, safety, parks, playgrounds, walkability, geography. It includes education, literacy, language, early childhood education, vocational training, and higher education. It includes food, hunger, access to healthy options. And of course, we could expand this because we would definitely say that, you know, having community gardens and green space is a social determinant of health. Community and social context, social integration, social systems, community engagement, discrimination and stress. And then we talk about our healthcare system, which is health coverage, availability to providers, linguistic and cultural competence, and the quality of care that a community receives. So those are the established, well-known social determinants of health. But I would like to expand that and add that information, how information is shared, is a social determinant of the health of a community. So, Brother Bay, I noticed you had your hand up. Do you want to say something now, or did you have a question?
Well, I'd like to say something about what you just said. These mics, we want to make sure.
You can pass it around.
Thank you. From my working with Delia, Jeff Monroe, and some people here in Mount Vernon, I was part of the school system, and I wasn't happy. And I left and I started a group called Strong Readers that I entered into 20 East 3rd Street. And from etymology of my teacher, Dr. B, he taught me words: who, what, when, where, how, why, and which. Now, the police department, they call that interrogation, but it's actually to get information. So if we use those words, we can get information from people who know something, who may not want to come up to the mic. We need to encourage them to come up and say something, because everybody has something good in their minds. And I came here 45 years ago, and I watched Mount Vernon diminished. From the school, there are no more trades. I'm a trade person. I went to a trade school. It's gone. It took many years for them to put the swimming pool back. You know, then we get on the outside schools, taking away money from the regular schools. And what's going to happen with our children? They're not going to learn nothing. We're going to get children who come out of our school system who doesn't have a trade, and a trade can take you farther than your degree. I do several different things because of the trade that I learned. So I was hurt when Mount Vernon School District took out all of the trades. So we have to repair ourselves by putting these things back so that we can upgrade. And I worked with Mrs. Farquharson, was one of the special people at the school board. So I just would like to see that to come back while I'm still alive. Thank you.
Okay. So the purpose that we want to, that why we're gathered here, is about solutions. It's about organization of our community. So it's not just, you know, about whether or not a dispensary is going to be placed on 3rd Street and how that might or might not impact the community in a negative way. It's about whether or not we have the opportunity to determine if that's good for our community and how that's good for our community, and how will the land be used. So we want this to be about a solutions-based approach. And how do we get a more responsive community? Because what we know is that folks are working in silos, right? And I could list a myriad, and it's good that the assemblyman is here, I could list a myriad of complaints. So whether it's rats or potholes, right? Whether it's crime or unemployment or lack of housing, right? We could list all these problems, but how do we arrive at a solution so that, because if I check with all of you, you likely have an idea of the kind of community that you want to live in and a host of suggestions as to what would make our community more like the community that you want to see. Am I correct? So the question is, how do we get there? How do we get there from here to there? And doing that, understanding that those social determinants that I talked about are integral to getting there. And food is a primary need. And how do we survive if God forbid, the supply chain doesn't work? How do we sustain ourselves? How do we encourage our children to understand that it's not only therapeutic to farm or garden, but it's survival? So that's how I want to open the discussion. So the introduction of the Free People's Market and our new way, Jeff. Is Amy going to do that?
Yeah, I'll begin. I'll begin by framing the shot. This is called guerrilla media, people. And it's not taught in film school. So, yes, I will start the contribution to that dialogue as a member of the Free People's Market. The Free People's Market is it's an activity that really came out of the need of our COVID, or of our local COVID-related policy reactions. People were on unemployment, under-resourced. People that already were, for whatever reasons, on a fixed income or no income, already restricted from having access to nutritious food sources. So we realized, by we I mean myself and some other organizers. I actually also got word from a Westpac director, Nada Carter, that there was an opportunity to have farm fresh organic produce distributed to resources in the lower Westchester area. One of the people on that distribution list was another organizer by the name of Ruby Olisameka, who is not physically present, but she has been the absolute rock of my experience in learning how to do farming. She's a farmer. I'll let her introduce herself at some other time. But Ruby was one of the people who put into play the ability to connect the resources of the food fresh sourcing and the distribution. I basically helped to find the space and to put it, in fact, we got support from the city at first at the Dole Center, and then pretty quickly migrated to a space on 4th Avenue where we just welcomed the community to come pick of the maybe 150 pounds per week that we got to distribute. Beets, carrots, potatoes, lettuce, greens of all kind, every now and then fruits like plums and apples. That's where we actually saw the need, because people showed up and made it obvious that young and old, middle class or not, people needed affordable, nutritious food. And at the time, it became obvious that not only must people find resources like that on a regular basis, but whenever, and we knew, pandemic notwithstanding, things were pretty bad, but eventually we would come back to some stasis of under-resourced so-called normalcy. So we realized we needed to talk about how to sustain actual nutritious food availability. And I'm going to keep saying nutritious because we have several grocery stores, but most of them, quite frankly, they run on a deficit of nutritious food availability. And what's affordable in there is not nutritious, and what's nutritious is unaffordable. So we realized we needed to start talking about how to grow food, and I'm not a food person. I haven't been a farmer. I appreciate the great outdoors, but I've never been connected to the land, except through my culture as an African. So the point is, we started to look around the Free People's Market and our customers who would come and get food, and we realized first you needed to build community. You needed to build a network of people who trust each other and a network of people who would work together, and that was the first task. And that's a formidable task in the United States for other reasons that we'll discuss at some point later. But the point is to build community, and from that you also build input and dialogue that look like what understanding people's needs are. So we realized we need to farm land, we need to find land, and then farm it. That is a process that's still, it's quite frankly dragging its feet. There's a lot of politics involved. The commodification of land and the capitalization of land for profit is just an absolute cancer that has made itself known to us, in part through this whole issue with the dispensary, because some of the land that we asked to use, about 500 feet from this dispensary, is city-owned land that we've asked for actual use.
Formal request, formal legislative request, right? So I actually, forgive me for interrupting, Jeff, but I actually submitted a referral letter. I actually submitted a referral letter to the City Council asking for that parcel of land to be designated as a community garden. And so the process requires that it be designated by the Real Estate Committee, made up of the assessor, the controller, and the president of the City Council. For whatever reason, that piece of legislation just did not make it to the Real Estate Committee. So we're making another attempt with the support of FCWC to, again, formally request that that bit of land be designated as a community garden. And you know, the politics behind the property, this property, because the reason why, Jeff read from the article, the reason why that the City Council didn't support it is that you require 4 votes. For the transfer of real property in the city, it requires a supermajority. So 4 City Council members must vote. Part of that property also has like a tax bill that needs to be forgiven. And it's a substantial amount of money, but it's your money. And so it's really important to pay attention to how these decisions are being made and what is happening with the assets of our community. Sorry, Jeff.
Thank you. That actually was a great, really it's an elaboration that I needed, because beyond the politics of land acquisition, and let's be very, very kind of common here, you know, we're all sitting on stolen colonized land, and that is the actual principled lens through which the Free People's Market works. We're not giving food away. We're providing people with needs. Food happens to be the one need that we had the resource to afford them. And in that relationship, we feel we need to decolonize the sense that either land is owned, number one, or should be commodified. And obviously, we should not be doing the same for food. And therefore, the Free People's Market branched out through relationships that we were building, and I'll elaborate on that in a moment. But we elaborated on the need to find other like-minded farmers and people with resources who are also not just looking, they're looking to build in whatever way they provide food and nutrition, but they're looking to build community. We're not interested in profit. We're not interested in political gains. We're not interested in the usual industrial ways for which food or land are used. And as uncommon as that might be to say, we believe it's going to become increasingly obvious that it's a mindset that needs to expand as we grow out of this post-COVID situation. People just do not have the resources, if they had it before, to go forward into an economy that has never provided for most of us, especially in the Black community. So that's where the Free People's Market sits, and that's the lens through which we see the world. We were very fortunate. I was fortunate to meet Ruby, and through Ruby, I was even more fortunate to meet Amy Benaroff, who I'll introduce in a moment, because Amy runs Our New Way Garden, and she's already given you an overview, but Our New Way Garden has become an excellent resource in Lower Westchester for facilitating food to people with needs and from people with resource. And that's another key element here. To speak commonly, this is not one of your Michelle Pfeiffer, Dangerous Minds, if you remember that story, where, a benevolent white savior comes to a black community and fixes everything and, changes your world. That's not the real world, and that's certainly not how Mount Vernon is going to save itself. We're fortunate to have people who identify as white with resources in a country where white supremacy, colonization have literally undermined the people who were here, were brought here, and even the people who were brought here to benefit from it as so-called non-white peoples. We have to humanize these relationships again. We have to return to a place where normal is rehumanizing and decolonizing. So that's a long conversation that we won't get into today, but I'm putting it in those terms because that's where we need to go. That's where we believe we can go.
That's right, common humanity.
So with that, I'll introduce the dialogue now, because Free People's Market and with the partnership of Our New Way Garden actually went forward with our food distribution plans. Now, upon that process, we also were able to meet Ann Jaffe Holmes. Ann Jaffe Holmes of the Federated Conservationists of Westchester County. That acronym always kills me.
Yeah, Federated Conservationists.
So FCWC came upon their own initiative to build community as well with Evelyn and the Green and Mr. May and the Green. What is the committee's name again? I'm sorry. The Tree Advisory Committee, right.
Efficient part of the Mount Vernon administration. It's brand new and it's really making moves.
And I'm very proud to have worked.
That's right. In fact, maybe you should say more about what the Tree Advisory Committee aims to do, because land use is not just about, again, commodification of land. It's about humanization of community and the land on which we exist. So, to finish off with how Ann Jaffe Holmes and FCWC helped us out, we actually saw the need to build organizational connections that aim to build community. So that's our goal, and these are the allies and the assets through which we think it can be done. So this process, this conversation, which we're hoping will build into that. The other economic dividends that come from what still is a capitalized society, we still need resources, funds, et cetera. So, and people still need jobs, still have to pay bills, and we find that in whatever way we can still find the usefulness of the system to build enterprise, to build community and dividends from community that is economic, there are other solutions we'd like to talk to. And that's where the Westchester Cooperative Network comes in. And in fact, maybe I should introduce at this point, well, maybe in a moment, because one of our representatives is here. I sit on the board of the Westchester Cooperative Network, but that's another solution kind of element that we should build into the conversation, we believe, but we have some time to do that. So that's where it is for now. I don't know where you want to go next.
So I think Amy, because that's the agenda, right? So Amy, Our New Way Garden, and then Ann.
So first of all, as a supporter of community, I would want to come into a community and really find out what people want before anything. And what I have to offer is experience creating lots of sustainable community gardens, working on new kinds of models of ways of linking areas of resource in a way that they help to funnel the resources to places that don't have access resource as easily. And I do a lot of education. I love working with young people. I also wanted to say I brought some seeds if anybody wants seeds. We do a lot of seed saving. And I look around everywhere I go in Westchester County, and I see a lot of potential for land to be used to feed people, to grow. I think that food should be free. I don't think we should actually pay for food. I think that farmers should be sustained through municipalities, and that should be a job, and that there should be a fleet of Westchester farmers that just grow lots and lots of food. There's enough land and there's enough resource here for everyone to be fed locally and to be fed healthfully and to participate in the food system. I think like right now, less than 2% of the country's population are farmers, and they're all above like 65 years old. And so there's a really important need for young people to start to reconnect to growing food. And actually, recently, the woman who runs the teen program at the Boys and Girls Club in Mount Vernon reached out to me, so I'm looking forward to meeting them in April and welcoming them to our greenhouse space and seeing, who's interested in farming and then finding land. And anyway, so that's why I'm here. And if you have any questions or thoughts, or I'm happy to be a part of the conversation and share what I know and learn from everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you so much. So, Assemblyman Pretlow, yeah, you're asking for an opportunity.
Well, actually, I came just to see what we're doing here in the community. It's a community activity, and I think that is fantastic. I was invited by Mr. Thomas here, so I'm glad that I didn't make it. I have a 4 o'clock. That's why I was kind of rushing.
That's right.
Rushing out. It's interesting. I've become a bee person, believe it or not. There's a problem that we have with pesticides that is killing the bees, and we all have heard about the birds and the bees, but besides the reproductive actions of the bees, they actually feed us. And without the bees, we're not going to have food, and without food, we're not going to have lives, and we all know what the end result of that is. It's my personal feeling that we in this country, not just this county or this community, but this country are in a food desert. And what we have are these large conglomerates that are claiming 90% of all the farmland. I mean, all the beef produced in this country is controlled by 3 companies, all the pork by 2 companies. The poultry by, I think, 1 company, and what they're growing is not really healthy food. And then we suffer from advertising where people think that it's easy to get a Happy Meal that has 0 nutrition in it, as opposed to going to what I call semi-fast food, where you have places like the Roadie Shop, or places like Flavor that serves West Indian food, Golden Crust, they serve meals. There's a Dominican place on Gramerton Avenue that serves food, real food, and it's actually cheaper than what you buy at McDonald's at 6 Gramerton Avenue. It has much more nutrition to it. It costs less, but people's mindset is that we're going to get some fries from McDonald's. And if we all have seen the things, you take a French fry from McDonald's and put it on your kitchen sink and go away for a year and come back, that same French fry is there, no mold, no deterioration. It's the same French fry you left a year ago. That should tell us all something about what it is that they're trying to tell us to put in our bodies. Food is, like I said, is of the utmost importance. I don't know about this country. What we do subsidize farmers now. We do, but we pay them not to grow things because they all want to grow the same thing. What's called, I'm losing my chain of thought, foods that don't use pesticides, organic, that was the word. Okay. Organic costs 2 and 3 times what non-organic costs, and I don't think it should cost that much, but that's what they choose to charge. We've had experience with farmers markets right here in Mount Vernon at City Hall, and my office is across the street from there. I did not see the participation that I would expect to see people utilizing these farmers markets. They would rather go to the grocery store and buy bad food because it might be a penny a pound cheaper. But that penny a pound being less expensive is deteriorating your life.
That's right.
And if you lose even an hour of life based on the bad food you eat versus the good food over the course of a year, you've lost significantly. So I think that, I like the motto of this group, and that's communication and community and working together. You had asked a question earlier as to how do we get to where we want to be? And in my view, the only way to get to where we all want to be is to work collectively with one another and strive for the same thing. And we have to be like the skull rowers. We have to all be growing in synchronization. If one person is rowing this way, one person is rowing that way, the boat does this and it doesn't go anywhere. What we want to do is all be going in the same direction. And I think just from listening to what I've heard this evening, that's what's happening here. This group should be a lot larger than it is, but the Chinese proverb says a journey of 1,000 miles starts out with the first step. So this is a good step, and this will move us forward. And I hope that I can be of assistance to you in the future. Mr. May, I had offered to buy a tree. No one came by my office to get the check, so this tree is still there. I still have whatever the tree costs. I don't even know how much it is. But anyway, I went to the Arbor Day thing at Hartley Park,
Right.
and I had pledged to buy a tree for planting, and we never got that to fruition. But let's get that done at some point.
And I want to thank you for being here, Assemblyman Pretlow. And, it's good that you are verbalizing your commitment to help with this organization effort. The fact is that we want to have more community gardens in this community. And I think yours can be a really strong voice, a significant voice in helping that, in encouraging our city to designate community gardens as an important part of our survival. So I'm going to ask that of you. I'm going to ask for your commitment to airing that, because we know you're going to get reelected, right? We know you're going to get reelected.
Mr. Bay just helped me out today. Was at his house doing petitions.
So
He signed my petition.
So that's that's our ask. Our ask is that of you, is that when you leave after your 2 years, if that's your last term, if you choose that to be your last term, that we will have more community gardens in Mount Vernon than we do today.
Absolutely.
And we will say thank you. We will name one of them after you. All right? So that's our ask of you, Assemblyman Pretlow.
Councilwoman, you have my word on that. I will do what I can to help this organization, and I will advocate for more community gardens.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. All the best.
Sorry, I have to run, but I have a 4 o'clock.
We forgive you. We forgive
Okay.
you. Take care.
Right, take care, everybody.
Bye
Okay,
now.
bye-bye.
So, yes, go ahead, Marlene.
This was, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago here in Mount Vernon on, I guess it was 7th, before they did all the developing. There was a huge community garden that people would flock to during the summers. You'd come in, pick what you wanted, they'd weigh it, and you'd pay just a pittance for whatever you selected. And it worked beautifully, and I guess it was something, was a pop-up thing until the city decided to act otherwise.
Yeah. So that gives us a vision of where we want to be, right? Back to the past. And it's your turn. Please take the mic.
Actually, everybody, I'm here to listen more than to talk, but I got to tell you, FCWC works with municipalities all over Westchester County, and what I see happening in Mount Vernon is extraordinary. It's fantastic. You've got such smart people with so much vision and so much commitment to rebirthing your city and bringing it back to its healthy, prosperous state, which it has a history of, right? And all of you are, right now, remember, we're at a time of change. By 2045, white people will be in the minority in the United States of America. Everything's changing, and it's changing from the ground up. And we're changing the energy grid, and we're changing the food systems by dint of people in the grassroots wanting something better. And that's what you're all about. And I'm just here to support you to listen and to identify resources to connect you to, because there's a lot of resources out there now at the state level and the county level and the municipal level. So thank you very much for allowing me to support
Thank you, Anne. You know, Anne is such a humble soul, because Anne is like a little powerhouse. She's a powerful ball of energy, helping with so many things in our community. So, Anne, we thank you for your commitment to Mount Vernon, because you're always there, you're always a great resource, and we really honor and appreciate you. So thank you. So we know that Ken is not here. Ken is likely at his pantry, but Ken Bright, that runs the LPS group, also started out, you know, pretty small, but has grown into someone who's repurposing and reconnecting people to food, redistributing food that's you know, harvested from stores outside of the community and within the community, so that folks don't go hungry. The lines are down the street. Okay, Mr. May, that's fine. Yeah, so the lines, but Ken is not here, but we just want to make sure that we acknowledge the work that Ken is doing in Mount Vernon. Jeff, Westchester Cooperative Network. After Mr. May.
Two things that I would like to just focus on right now. I heard the council legislator talk about bees, and the bees are part of that effort on our part to save the monarch butterfly. The monarch butterfly is a pollinator, and when he talks about herbicides and pesticides, me being an educator, I started looking at the sides part of those two words, and then I realized, well, there's homicide, fratricide, all kinds of, and it all involves death. So when we talk about herbicides killing off certain kinds of weeds and things so that things can grow, that's killing something that naturally would grow. And they're finding out that the weeds have developed, mutated and developed a strength to overcome the little bit that there was applied, and so now they have to increase the amount of herbicides in order to kill out the stronger weed. Pesticides, same thing. And it has introduced me to a new form of measurement, ppm, parts per million. And some of these herbicides and pesticides have seeped into our food. We're talking about food, nutritional food, have seeped into our food chain in parts per million. And some of the parts per million are above what the FDA and the city, all of those agencies that measure poisons in our food chain. So we're actually consuming some of those pesticides and herbicides that were sprayed on all these crops. So the county legislator is accurate when he talks about bees, because the bees have gotten to the point where they're disoriented. They don't go back to their honeycomb. They fly out to get the pollen and pick it up. But the pesticides and the herbicides, that the same farmer who hired the beekeeper to come and pollinate his crop has sprayed on his crop. So the bees don't know that these poisons are there, and they are collecting the pollen. Oh, the research and the things that I have had to learn as a result of being involved with this, that's one thing. And I'll end right there with that one and talk about my granddaughter. We had a conversation, and I said, how are things going in school? You're doing this virtual stuff. And she says, oh, we're studying foods. And I said, you are? She says, yeah, we want to have fresh food. They're talking about. I said, but most of the food that you consume is processed. She said, it is? I said, all you have to do is go in the grocery store. If it's in a can, it's processed. If it's in a jar, it's processed. If it's in a box, it's processed. If it's in a packet, it's processed. If it's wrapped in foil, it's processed. It's all processed. The only food in that store that might not really be processed, and it's not GMO stuff, are the greens that you see, the fruit that you see. And some of that stuff is sprayed up and covered with all kinds of chemicals. And if you put an apple on the windowsill, the legislator said, you know, food lasting for a long period of time. If you put an apple on the windowsill, it will stay there for months before it shows any evidence of deterioration, because it has been sprayed with all kinds of chemicals. It's a process. And she said, but my teacher doesn't tell me that. I said, because your teacher doesn't know. And you only teach what you know. So I'll end on those two notes. So I'm continuing to learn about the systems that we have. And the school system is a worrisome thing for me, because I can see my grandchildren are not being prepared. So the conversation that I had with her was beneficial to her, but I'm thinking about all the other members of her class.
That's why I say we've been robbed. Thank you, Mr. May. So Jeff, who's making the presentation from the Westchester Cooperative Network?
I will, actually. I'm going to just kind of walk through, well, again, I'm Jeff Monroe, but where can I stand? Trying to practice my presenter skills. So if everyone in the room can look to their right, you'll see a PowerPoint presentation that I'm only going to do briefly as an overview as a member of the Westchester Cooperative Network. So myself, Jeff Monroe, Nada Carter, Professor Delia Marks, Gonzalo Carrion, and actually our new assistant program director, Ms. Diaz, Artemis Diaz, is actually a new organization that plans to grow worker cooperatives. I'll introduce our 7 principles, and if you, Amy, can go forward a couple slides, we should be able, if you arrow, or maybe the remote. Oh, no, sorry. This one here, yeah. Is it not clicking?
It's working, it's going on there, but it's not working on there.
Okay, in the meantime, Jeff is
Right.
working with that. I'm gonna introduce myself. So,
It's not
thank you.
mirroring. Let me try this.
My name is Artemis Diaz, or Artemis Diaz, and I'm just recently a star with the organization as a program assistant, and I feel very related as soon as I see the mission, the vision as a mission-driven organization. Was something that instantly do a click with me. And I start working with Delia closely, and I just meet in person Geoff, and sorry for my pronunciation, but what the Westchester Cooperative Network wanna do is something that is very helpful, and it catch my attention when they want collaboration among cooperative, when they want like to build unity and to be like a bridge and to be a connection between other worker-owned cooperative owners. So it's something that we are here together, we are here to help. Me personally, all of the board members are here to be as a bridge, to be a connection, to be there to provide resources, like technical resources, financial resources, and also information. In our website, we have another a long list of cooperative and also resources that are available for cooperative worker owners. So we want that you don't feel like cooperative don't feel alone, that we want to build something like together, and to have the opportunity to speak up, to stand down for those persons. And as I was listening all your intervention, really, I feel like proud of all of you. I appreciate your time and your consideration to be here. And I think this is a good opportunity to continue sharing to others and let them know that we are here for all of you, and we can go farther and we can go faster together. So nice to meet you. We are really happy to having all of you, and we have a lot of resources, information, financial support, and the more important, human connection. So please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Artemis. After you. That was excellent. I think that was probably the best kind of walk into the concept, because, I mean, as Artemis has perfectly articulated, really, worker co-ops are the way of the future. That's the way we see this. A lot of people have found in this pandemic that job security is really a myth, especially if you're not a billionaire, okay, or a millionaire, where you own the mode of production, as they say. But we who are most of us are in the working class. No matter what your age or your gender or your physical capability, most people have to hold some kind of income to survive in this society. What we found in the worker cooperative network is that we have 7 principles that really concretize how to articulate what to expect of the new dynamics that is a sustainable working class. So to start with, we maintain voluntary open membership. Any cooperative is a voluntary open membership-based entity. You don't have to have a degree or a specific training set. You don't have to have, you don't have to be a sorority or fraternity member. You don't, unless of course it's a sorority or fraternity that owns the worker co-op. The point is the membership actually comes in and decides what they want to do with what their working abilities are. Secondly, it's democratically member-controlled, meaning everyone has a say. Most of us who work in some office somewhere, go to your job, you punch in and punch out, you have no say. In fact, you're told what you're supposed to do, and if you have any input, it might be what aspect of the work you do in terms of, how much of a particular thing you're allowed to contribute. And even then, if you can't contribute...
Tornado and, all these other storms combined. And so we must be thinking about that. So I think, thinking about the idea of creating cooperatives in Mount Vernon, where the people really have the power, And so I'm going to pause here for your responses, for what you've heard, for what you're thinking. I want to acknowledge Ms. Tyree, Ms. Crenshaw, and Ms. Crenshaw, who I know are really concerned about the dispensary that is, proposed supposedly for 4th and 3rd, and so I'm going to pause here for us to, gather the input, to hear from the community.
Oh, hello. My name is Cynthia Crenshaw, and for the first time, I was raised in Mount Vernon. I'm raising my kids in Mount Vernon, my grandchildren, that I am running for district leader for 52 only because of what's going on in Mount Vernon. This is the worst I think Mount Vernon has been in. This is the worst. I think from the school board to our place here at the library and to City Hall. We as citizens have to come together and do something. Right. It's no reason that they should try to put a cannabis on 3rd Street and 4th Avenue. And that cannabis will host marijuana from Mamaroneck, the Bronx, and some parts of New York City and Yonkers. In that area, we have 3 or 4 senior citizens buildings. It's surrounded by schools. It's surrounded by a residential area. And think about this. the smoke that's going to be coming from that cannabis, along with what's going on at 70 with the sewer, that is going to be some smell. Trust me. And then with our school board, how could you bring another school into Mount Vernon? We already have 16 schools. I feel that we don't need a charter school, and a lot of the people feel the same way. We're giving $6 million to one charter school. This charter school will be receiving $1 million right out the gate. So what are we doing for our public schools? Mount Vernon, we have to come together. Even with these taxes that they are proposing on us, I had a forum at the church, Friendship Worship Center, about 50 people. I gave the city council a petition with about 3 pages petition saying we do not want that tax imposed on us. They just got a $3 million grant, but the mayor told me they're using that grant for what was that? For a study. For a study. Now that's $3 million for a study. Haven't they been doing the study on our water system for years? So why is this $3 million going for that? You must come down to the meetings, the city council meetings, and voice your opinion. If you do not, go on Zoom and just say, I do not support the cannabis. Whatever it takes to do it. We have to start being together as Mount Vernon residents. This garden that you are proposing is great, but what they are looking for is something to bring revenue into the city. And this is for, I think, a safety issue, the garden. I think it's going to help us as far as getting our health and mental together, but you have to come to City Hall and fight for it. Otherwise, you're going to have a problem. Now, this land you was talking about, what land is that? That's on 3rd Street.
So land use?
Yeah.
So the term land use is, you know, the term land use, I use that generally to describe how land is used, whether it's for development, which is the default mode of our city, right? I mean, I don't think they've met a piece of land that they do not think deserves a 30-story building. Right. So, and that needs to end because that's not healthy for us. We know our infrastructure cannot tolerate that. And so and that's why we get into the variant. So how these decisions are being made, I mean, it's mind-blowing to me that the city council, nobody supported the budget as it was proposed.
No.
And yet they had a unanimous vote for that budget.
Right.
That makes no sense to me because the city council represents the people. So if the people do not support the budget, how do you all vote for a budget like that? So it doesn't make any sense. So when I say land use, Ms. Crenshaw, is about how decisions made about how parcels of land are used. And there is, I think, 7 parcels of land that was given, and I use that word loosely, but for the most part, it was given to a developer. And the property that is being used or proposed now for the cannabis operation was actually to be designated as housing and commerce. And so that's not what because that was the empowerment zone. That was designated as an empowerment zone under Mayor Davis. And so what is happening now is not what was proposed for our community. And it's not, how do we determine that that's what our community needs?
Right.
If you don't ask the community
people.
and get the community's input.
Right.
So what is happening is that there's a total disregard for the community where people are making decisions based on profit, based on corruption, based on other things that are not in the best interest of our city.
Okay, so a question. So if that property was developed for housing,
Designated, yeah.
designated, who determines that it's going to, well, it's not a cannabis yet, so they're telling
Right.
me, but it's on its way, so we got to fight it. But anyway, who determines that it's going to be a cannabis now? That's City
So
Hall?
whoever the developer is, right? So it's whoever the developer is who just determines, because it's his money. So he's now saying, I can build, right? And it doesn't require any, I guess the building doesn't require any variances, so you didn't have to go, in front of all the boards, the land use boards. But the original idea, and this is something we should ask Mayor Davis to speak to, but the original idea was that this area was to be designated for housing, for affordable housing, with a lower level being designated for commerce, for stores. So this was not the original plan.
Okay, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Please take the microphone.
You said that there was a part on Third Street that you wanted to do the green. Is it?
Oh, it's on
where-
4th Avenue. It's on 4th
Is it-
Avenue. It's actually the lot.
Across the street that used to be where Shabazz is? Used to
No, no. It's actually the lot that's right next to Mangoville. There's a
be? Oh,
lot.
further down.
Yeah, it's further down.
That they use for the, the parties.
It's
That's what
next to
you're
that.
talking
There's a lot that's a city-owned lot that's right next to that. It has some dumping on it, so it would need to be cleaned, but it's a city. We have established that this is a city-owned property, so we know that for a fact, because that's something. Yeah, we do. We have the lot
All
and
right,
block
you
number.
know what, we're not, Ms. Crenshaw is talking about the cannabis. We're not, the group is not against the cannabis. We just don't want it on Third Street. Like I suggested to the board, go down there and put it on Sanford Boulevard where the hospital wanted to take over.
Okay.
Even though it's private property. Sanford
But it's for
Boulevard-
sale or for lease.
Sanford Boulevard really has nothing on there. So to me, if you want to put it somewhere, put it there. It's out of the way of kids. It's out of the way of people. And Third Street would not be overran by double
Right.
parking for people to go in there to buy. And then
Right.
you want to grow across the street on the lot that I don't know if you remember when Shabazz was there. You
Yeah.
do. They want to grow it and house it over there. I don't care where you put it, just not on Third Street. Third Street and Fourth Avenue looks a mess as it is. So what you gonna have now between the drug addicts on Third Avenue and people running back and forth? There was just a killing up there on Third Avenue. It's just not fair. I don't care where you put it. Just don't put
Put
it
it
on
there.
our main fair.
Right. And I think, like you said, I think that because we did host, Jeff, that was another community conversation on marijuana way back in, when was that, 17? 18, in City Hall. We talked about this even before this was decided, because back then, because we know our community has been impacted by the policing of marijuana, right? There's still people in jail today for sale and distribution of marijuana from our community. And so maybe the conversation should have been, do we create a cooperative, right, for marijuana in Mount Vernon to restore and repay the people and the damage to the community? Because children lost fathers, children lost mothers behind the criminalization of marijuana. So it is a real slight and an affront to then bring it and place it right slap in the middle of the city,
Right.
and say we're going to grow it and we're going to sell it right here when we still have people wallowing in prison. I think that's just an insult to our community.
But those are the people that's going to be getting the license to grow it first. The one right, to sell it first. The one they was injustice and they went to jail for marijuana.
How are they going to do that, right? I think that's an
what they're
argument that's
saying.
being floated
Right.
to pacify us. But
No, the governor said that.
Yeah, but what I'm
Right.
saying is, let's ask the governor instead to develop a cooperative of those people and the impacted children, right? The children who had to grow up without their parents, right, because they were in jail behind marijuana. Let's create a cooperative with that kind of impact and say, so that the result, the benefits are direct for those that have been significantly impacted. So the idea, why Jeff is presenting a cooperative, the idea of a cooperative, is because if we think about marijuana as a cooperative, right, then we know that it won't be victimization again for people to just extract profit. The profit should be going to those who have been hurt the most. And our community is among that.
Well, all I can say is come down to City Hall, come down and speak about this. I have a petition here. I'd appreciate it if you would sign this petition saying you are against the location, because the mayor already said it's going to be here. We were supposed to opt out in December, but I was told they were so busy that they forgot to opt out. So it was passed. That's what I was told by the city council, that they did not opt out because they were busy and it was a new slate. But, that's what I was told. And that's on record, because they, do everything. So please sign the petition, and let's work together for the safety and the health of Mount Vernon. not only the cannabis, but everything else that's going on in Mount Vernon. Let's work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Renshaw. Yes, Brother Bay.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. I can go next.
For you, I gotta pass it to you. Thank you.
Oh, man. My study in words. Oh, excuse me. My study in words tell me that food is an acronym. Do you know what it is?
No, tell us.
At 81 years old, we had nothing called food. You went to the store, you got fruits and vegetables and meat and cheese. So somebody made food. Is food good for you today? Hell no. Food is not good for you. Tomatoes don't last because they're not real. Bananas don't have no seeds. The food you put out years ago, it molds. The lunch meat molds in the box while you're waiting for it. You understand? This thing about putting weed near my house, and the drug dealers are on second and third. You understand? So now, if you allow the weed people to go, then the drug dealers might have to go too.
It's a cash business, by the way, because, right, it's going to be
Yeah.
all cash business. So just think, that's like rubbing, right, right.
federally excused.
That's right. So
We-
it'll be a cash only.
We've been sold
Cash
out
out.
from the inside. How can you okay something without the people knowing? You said we the people? We the people didn't vote for nothing. In your case, when you said you asked somebody and the city council, that's 4 people. Who gives them the damn right to do everything for us because we're not there? We have to really get together and become a people if you want to save this city. I got something that I wrote a long time ago in reference to Mount Vernon and all of the things that are no longer here. The hospital is on the way out if it's not out already. You can't be born in Mount Vernon no more. There's so many things that have been taken out of here. It's crazy, the movie. You know, the swimming pool has been made smaller. You understand? So if we as the people don't do something about it, it will be our fault. So we need to come together to stop all of the wrongs that you don't like. We have to come together to stop it. We have to make sure that people go to the city council because without pressure, guess what a city council member will do? Whatever he wants to do. What did Black Lives Matter do with those women? Did they change something? The woman had a camera out there filming it, didn't she? Everything got changed. And for you women, again, my mother had 18 children, and you did not get credit for carrying your baby. When your baby came out, you said, and they told you that the baby was 1 day old. They lied to you, and you believed it all the way up to right now. And the day that your baby was born, who birthed that baby? You did. We don't birth nothing. You get no credit for birthing your child. You are nothing, but you're really everything. Because nobody can come here without a woman. So you need a woman's movement backed up by the men. Because they're cheating you. Everybody's being cheated. I don't give a damn what color you are. You've been cheated. You didn't know that you had a birthday for your child. Your child is your birthday. Your mother's birthday is your day. They didn't tell you none of that. That's why we behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
One more thing about what Unity can do.
Yes, ma'am,
Just one
please
more-
do.
real quick.
And
With
folks,
Unity.
just to honor the library, and we have to really acknowledge and thank them. Nishan, thank you. But we are wrapping up, so.
Okay, just one thing, at what Unity could do. Did you know they wanted to put a Comfort Inn hotel in Mount Vernon? Right across from Parker School. I'm the Parker School. I'm the PTA president at Parker School. And the way I found out, when they was having some type of forum at the church, one person got up and said, do you know they putting up a hotel in Mount Vernon? And we said, where? And when they said Parker School, I jumped up, I said, you gotta be kidding, you was there. Okay. And I got, okay, well then you know. I got this petition going. I went around to those houses in the neighborhood, put the petitions and the flyers on their cars, on their doors. They all came out to the planning department, and that hotel was stopped. So we can do things as in unity, in love, and in spiritual growth. So let's work together, sign this petition, and if you could give me your email, I will let you know when the city council have their meeting. Let's work together. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
I would like to say something to in working together theme. I don't know where you want to take the cooperative thought, but I didn't grow up on this continent. I grew up in Switzerland, and I have to say cooperatives is the way to go. As a little child, we went to either this supermarket or that supermarket. Both were cooperatives. One was the one which had branded products, and the other one was the one who had private label and made it so much cheaper that the brands had to keep a check on their prices, and the quality was almost better at the private label. And it was a cooperative, and to this day, it's the best place to shop. It's cheap and it's the best, and they always have what we want. Like, that was about 35 years ago. We were starting to leave our packaging of the fruits, no need for packaging, at the cashier, and it was piling up so much that they stopped doing packaging. We were bringing our own bags. They stopped printing bags. So together, it's really the way to go. What I wanted to say when I jumped up is just a little bit of the journey that brought us like a really strong tree law now was an incident that happened to me. I made a presentation, just like this presentation was here, about what happened, what the need is, and who is in to come together in, was the start of Citizen Tree. And just like this group here, quality people in Mount Vernon came together and got on a mission of a combined goal. And each of us took a little bit of work, we divvied it up, and came to a fabulous document that was then presented. So basically, we all have a goal, and we work a project that finds that is good for us. And then we go and present it. It has to be something that makes sense, right? And we go and present it. And more people accumulate to support this vision. Eventually, it'll get through in one way, form, or another. It will make a positive impact. Maybe not the whole 100% that we wanted, but 80% made it through. It took 10 years, but steadfast and with perseverance together, it was possible. So the third thought that I want to share is now springtime, I am in my second season now of my front yard garden. I'm fortunate enough to have some space. It's a colonial house, very formal front yard that I decided during the pandemic to dig up and divvy up and make some vegetable plot, some pollinator pathway. In other words, the one side where flowers can grow, I went apeshit with flowers. So I had really monarch butterflies and all kinds of buzzing going on. On the other side, we had a lot of vegetable and herbs and teas and all of that stuff. So it's no more formal. It's really crazy, but it's a happy place. And if anybody wants to come and see how I did it, I'm willing to share. And the forethought was, because it's spring and I want to get some little plants that are already further along, I wanted to go to Girardi, and of course that's a big nursery, the only big nursery we have in Mount Vernon, on the Fleetwood section, that it's now closed. And I'm missing it right now for my little flowers that I wanted to go get. And I'm just wondering and hoping that that nursery somewhat stays a nursery. Somebody told me, oh, it's going to be townhouses. Yeah. I'm like, where the hell is that comprehensive plan? I would make a pitch to keep a nursery in Mount Vernon. But then somebody said, well, it's going to be townhouses. You can't grandfather in the nursery. I'm like, who's this? So my thought and my hope was, can't we just all together buy this and make a community land? Because the location, the stuff obviously grows there. It's a great farm. It's next to a school. The school, yeah, right. It's next to two schools.
Montfort Academy in Pennington.
Yeah, and it's a piece of culture that I'm already very sad about that we don't have. And somebody said it's $1 million. I'm like, it's together. I think together we could.
Yeah, I'm asking Artemis for seed money. I see the library folks are buzzing around. Thank you. You want to say something, Amy?
I just wanted to say a couple things about, like, my mind always goes to what can we do, what can we do? And two thoughts come to my mind. The first thing is that the laws of nature are the laws of abundance. And when you grow food, you realize that you plant a seed, and from one seed, you get many. It's not a one-to-one deal, which is kind of what we've got with capitalism, dollar for dollar, or however they've set it up. And I think that we have to think about going underneath all of the stuff that happens around us and build something that they can't refuse and they can't stop. I already have lots of product. Like, I brought some seeds here to share.
Yeah.
But a workers' co-op could start with some of the things that we're growing right now and start to make products and start to build things that we can then start to
Generate.
Generate
So
revenue. That's kind of where my mind is going. Teas and herbs and seeds and
oils
sauces and different foods that could be then marketed through the whole county and build a really powerful local food source that people will want.
Thank you. Thank you. Nishan, we're wrapping up.
Yeah, we're wrapping up. It's 4:45. Last chance to use the bathroom.
Thank you.
We should be wrapping up. The library closes at 5.
Yeah, so I want to thank you all. Thank you, Nishan. Thanks to the library for this important discussion, and we will be in touch. Jeff.
We do have one last, because I wanted to give, we actually have been trying to build a coalition the last few months, and I know this, we actually need to wrap up, but Baba Charles Davis actually has a brief, if he could come forward and introduce himself. And the Pan-African diaspora dialogue is something that we need to start talking about, but we need to dedicate more time to it at some other point. But we definitely should not go tonight before knowing that there are coalition building efforts going on. So thank you.
Thank you and good afternoon. I really enjoy just sitting here and just listening. But the more I listen, it seems like if we are doing the same thing all over again. I've been in this community now 50 years, and some of the very same thing that we are now realizing needs to be done has been started in Mount Vernon before. But for some reason, it tends to separate and then it just goes away. We're looking at a Pan-African diaspora dialogue. There's 50 people that is involved in it right now, and we're looking for a real cross-section of people just to continue to talk about the needs of Mount Vernon. And my work in this community here have been very silent. And when I say silent, because of all the other activity that's going on. I am in agreement with just about everything that I hear here today. And I just want you all to know that the Pan-African dialogue that we are putting together, it's really important, and it's off of the 1995 Million Man March and some of the things that happened there. The campaign that we had for the school district in here. And I know that there's people in this community here that know the struggle of Mount Vernon, and the struggle continues. But we need to identify each other, just know each other, know what we're doing, and be supportive. I am just grateful, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to be here. Thank you.
So thank you all for being here, for committing this time to this energy, to this effort. And we hope to make this a monthly occurrence. So I look forward to seeing you in April. All right. Blessings to all of you.